front page of the photography website we are building must highlight one thing: your photography. We might add in some other minor details such as links to our social media pages and the like later, but the first thing a visitor has to see is an example, if possibly the best example, of your photography. And today I'll be showing you how to do exactly that using WordPress and the theme I introduced in an earlier video, GeneratePress. Before we get going, I just quickly want to recap on what I've done with the website since filming that last video. It's only been some minor details. I've adjusted the copyright to actually say my name, and I've also adjusted the colors of the menu to fit my color theme I've selected, and also done a bit of work on the colors of the site in general, such as the background of the body. And that's all I did. Now let's get to creating that front page. To be honest, this might sound a bit boring, but the first thing I want you to do is to go to the GeneratePress website and have a look at the page hero examples in the documentation there. You might not like the design I've gone with, and the examples listed on that page might give you some ideas on how you might want to do things. I'm basing my design on the third example on that page. I'll just display a single photograph and I'll add in a few details in the little box you can see there. Now, if you take a look at one of these examples and scroll down a bit, we'll see that there's some CSS code that has to be inserted into your website. Now, please do not go running for the hills. This isn't a complicated process. What this code does is define how some of the things will look like on your website. It's like adjusting heading 1 in a Word document, except here you're doing it with code. To enter that code, we're going to log into our WordPress backend and head into the customizer. From there, select additional CSS and paste the code we just copied from the GeneratePress documentation. For the time being, we are going to keep things as it is. We can always go back in there later and adjust a few settings here and there. Spoiler, we are going to adjust a few things. But for now, what I want you to do is exit the customizer and head back into your backend. In the backend, I want you to head over to Appearance and select Elements. This is one of the features you only get with GeneratePress Premium, so it really is worth that price. From there, select New and create a header. What I'm going to do now is just copy the code from the GeneratePress documentation again, and the only difference will be that I'll be using one of my images, of course. So make sure all of your settings are exactly the same as they are in the screenshots. One thing of note is that the option to make the image full screen only appears when you set the option to merge with the content. As you can see, I'm doing it right here on the screen. Don't forget to adjust the navigation transparency if you actually want to see the image behind it. Under display rules, I'm going to set this to display only on my front page because that's where I want it. If we now visit the front page, we can still see that there still is a lot wrong with this page, but we are getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. The obvious error is that our secondary navigation isn't transparent yet, and there still is an empty box below the image, seemingly waiting for some content that will never appear. Don't worry, we'll get this all sorted out. First of all, we want to make the secondary navigation slightly transparent too, just like the primary navigation. To do that, we're going to use another plugin from the always excellent GeneratePress author. This plugin is called Simple CSS, and it allows you to set CSS rules for individual pages, and by adding a rule to just a single page, the other pages won't be affected by it. So that's perfect because we only want the secondary navigation to be transparent on the front page, but not on the rest of our pages. Once installed, I can look for my front page in the backend, under Pages obviously, and add the following CSS code. Oh, and by the way, I'll post these snippets on my website, so check in the description for a link to that. What you're seeing me do here is changing the hex code to an RGB code because that will allow me to easily adjust the transparency. A quick Google search will bring up the appropriate RGB numbers. Using RGBA, I can use the final digit to adjust the transparency, with 0 being fully transparent and 1 being fully colored. About 0.5 looks good to me. Now I'm also going to adjust the main navigation again to match the transparency of my secondary navigation. Next up, we have to remove that awful box below the image on the front page. And here's how I did that. On the right hand side on the layout, click Page Builder Container and change it from default to full width. Gone is that box at last. One final adjustment I want to make is to remove that annoying scroll bar you can see on the right. This front page is meant to display just the photograph without any scrolling. I found only one way to do that, and that is to completely remove the footer from that page. I'll just make sure I'll include any contents from the footer somewhere else, maybe in that little box we're going to add in later. The footer can be removed using the same settings we were just in. Go to Disable Elements and select Footer. Be warned, if you're logged in, you will still see a scroll bar, but that's because you've got the WordPress header up top. But if you log out of your WordPress, you will see that the scroll bar has disappeared. And now we get to finally editing the contents of our front page. To do that, go back to the page hero element and just edit the text. We'll deal with the buttons later. I'm just going to add my name and a wee description about me for the time being. However, if we now go back and have a look at the front page, we still can't actually read the text, so I think it's about time we fix that. Looking at the code, we can see that our text is inside a so-called div container. This container has the class page hero content. Now we know which CSS class we have to go and edit. And to do that, we're going to go back into the additional CSS in the customizer and have a look at the code we pasted there earlier. Under the class page hero content, I'm just going to add a background and set a specific color. We could pick a solid color, but I think we're going to go for something a bit more subtle here. For that, I'm once again going to convert the hex color into RGB and define the background using that. Then I'll play with the large digit to find a matching transparency. I think about 80% looks good here. To change the border, you can either remove it by setting its width to 0 pixels, or you can change its color by using border color. I think my page looks best without a border, so away it goes. Remember when I mentioned I might want links to my social media pages such as Instagram or YouTube on my front page? Well, let's get that done. And in fact, there's another plugin by the GeneratePress author to help us along the way a bit. So the first thing we want to do is install the plugin Lightweight Social Icons. Then head over to the widget section under Appearance. Here we're going to drag a Lightweight Social Icons widget into the Off Canvas panel. And now we can add our icons. Now, to be able to use this widget wherever we want, we need another plugin called Widget Shortcode. So go ahead and install and activate that one too. Once activated, you'll see that the widget now has an added field called Shortcode. Simply copy that code and head back into the page hero element. Here you can insert the code underneath the two buttons and click on Update. If we now take a look at our front page, we'll see that those social icons have been added. To clean it up, we can now also remove those buttons from the code. Things should look a lot cleaner now. For me, however, the color of the icons just don't quite match, and I'm also not a fan of their squareness. So I'll head back into the widget section and adjust the color according to my color theme, and I'll play with the border radius. By the way, if the radius is half your icon size, the icon will be round. At this point, you can go ahead and add further icons to your list, and they'll appear automatically on your front page without any adjustments to the code. You know what? With that, I'm actually quite happy with the look of my front page, and I'll be leaving it as it is. For the time being at least. Next up in this series, we'll be creating our galleries, so make sure you subscribe to this channel and don't miss out on that. Alright, that's enough from me for one day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!